Welcome to the Binary Agra and Happy New Year. This episode follows a slightly different format that I think will benefit most those in the academic community who have started working quite quickly after their winter break, the PhDs. As you may know, I presented my Viva a year and a half ago. After having researched the topic of the interface between privacy and competition law for 2.5 years. During that time, and especially since I have gotten to the end of the PhD race, I have spoken to several PhD candidates and students who asked for my advice. And here go some main takes that I give anyone who dares to ask. Recent studies have proven that high levels of mental health problems correlate with people taking on their PhD studies. Therefore, if you find yourself in the situation, do take advantage of the psychological care your institution might provide. My main points are solely based on my experience and should be taken with a pinch of salt, precisely because they are based on my situation, which might have nothing to do with yours. And this thought leads me directly to the first point I wanted to address. To take the PhD as a choice and not as a result. It's true that publishers and your supervisor or supervisors might be really interested in you delivering an outstanding thesis that documents the novelty of a given topic or idea. And that might happen for you at the end of this road. Sometimes, rarely, PhDs do their best work on their thesis, but that's not the case for 99% of people. The start of the rest of your career starts precisely as you finish your PhD, and that's okay. Because a PhD is not about reaching a given output first or best. It's about finding your voice. This is something that I think supervisors do not stress enough. PhD students go into the 4 years ahead with a set of preconceptions about a given topic, a way of doing things, or even the academic community. All those preconceptions will normally crumble at your own feet within the first years of the PhD journey. The PhD process is more about getting to know yourself rather than researching, reflecting, and writing about that topic in good style and form. It's true that at the end of it all, you'll have to deliver on a piece that builds on previous scholarly debate, but that's not the point of the PhD. The point is to learn what strengths, weaknesses, advantages, and disadvantages you carry with you into the academic world once you're finished. This is something that most PhD students neglect, and I think it's massively consequential. That's why the first years of your PhD you'll be reading like crazy, because it's the most formative phase of them all. You get to read what other academics have said before you to take the next step in the debate. And to take that next step, you have to do one thing. Decide whether you want to stay within the same lane or diverge. It might be the case that you want to follow the style, form, and ideas of others before you, and you're comfortable with that as an academic and you're also good at it. If it's the case, then your voice starts to unfold in that direction. However, it might be the case that you want to diverge from the current scholarship and highlight topics that have been underrepresented or illustrate points that have been missed in the past via innovative methodologies. That's a massive decision to make because it defines you and your voice. And believe me, if there's something that the academic community will know you for, it's going to be your voice, aside from your work. What's the tool to lead you to dig up your voice? I suggest two of them if you're really puzzled about what to do next in your first PhD years. First, work around a clear and concise research question. Many supervisors fail to deliver this in so many words, but it is the core of your PhD and your main working tool. I'm not talking about you deciding at the start of the PhD that you want to talk about the intersection of X and Y, but rather why, how, and what that question is going to materialize. Let me give you an example. In my particular case, I knew that I wanted to discuss the implications of the interplay between data protection and competition law, stemming from recent cases coming from different competition authorities. I did not know how that research was going to advance the scholarly debate, why it was important, and what was especially groundbreaking in that respect. After reading much about it, I spotted a gaping hole in the assessment of competition authorities with regard to privacy. Privacy enhancements as potential anti-competitive harms had not been analyzed in the decisional practice of many competition authorities. Therefore, I reversed the topic of my interest on its own head and built my research question around that. Notably, whether privacy enhancements may constitute anti-competitive harms and whether competition law was prepared to meet that challenge. And stemming from that two-sentence formulation, all the rest of the work was much simpler because it narrowed down the scope of my readings. It also helped me in designing a preliminary index for the thesis and in deciding what ideas to incorporate into it. Think of it as a tree. Your thesis cannot capture the whole wisdom and beauty of a fully grown tree. You have to chop a few branches to get to the core of your research and advance from there. Although the branches are important to the tree, you do not have to conflate the relevance of those branches with the magnificence of the tree. And my second suggestion, which ties quite well with my third take, is to start writing and circulating your work before you get on writing your thesis. In my view, getting in your head too much about writing 200, 500, or 1,000 words a day will not help much in getting you there in good shape at the end of your thesis. My experience is that one learns by doing. You learn to write by facing a blank page and you learn to structure ideas in the same way. That's why I find publishing papers in advance of your thesis essential. You get the opportunity to rehearse how to design a research question in a smaller format. Calls for papers, abstracts for both publications and conferences are great for this purpose. And at the same time, you're also learning about how challenged or unchallenged you might be throughout the process. For example, I found that I am really gifted in having the capacity to write quickly. But that flow only comes at a certain point in time when I feel that my arguments hold enough ground on paper. It's possible that you might be challenged in other ways, whilst you have a really clear idea of what you want to write about straight away. The creative process is different for everyone, and that's the beauty of academia. Each of us provides our contribution in the best way and form that we can deliver. Quality of ideas, writing, or structure might fluctuate with time, but it also lets you in on one of the secrets of the academic life. Failure is much better than success. Failure teaches you what to avoid, how to improve, what to do better, whilst success simply points you in the same direction and pats you in the back for some well-deserved recognition. Failure generates academic growth, and that's the best you can do throughout the first years of your PhD road. See what works for you, what doesn't, and whether you're good at what you have failed in. The PhD process is really different for everyone, and that's the reason why I don't like giving advice to anyone, because what might work for some will surely be counterproductive for others. And if you have liked this video, click the subscribe and like buttons below. This is the first video of many for this year, so if you'd like to ask anything about the PhD process or even share your personal experience, just write on the comments sections below or DM me on my LinkedIn profile if you want to remain anonymous. Hopefully, if I have enough questions and comments, I will record an additional video discussing them. Bye bye.